Hi, Lloyd Rieber here with some thoughts about computational thinking as it relates to computer programming. This is a topic we've been discussing in several of our design classes here at the University of Georgia. I've been influenced quite a bit by a seminal essay written by Jeanette Wing in 2006 that appeared in the Communications of the ACM, a publication of the Association for Computing Machinery. Wing makes some very important points in her essay, such as making it clear that computational thinking is about conceptualizing, not programming, and also that it is meant as a fundamental skill for all people to acquire. She emphasizes that computational thinking is about how humans think, not how computers think. She also makes the point that computational thinking combines mathematical and engineering thinking. Of course, the computer is a fundamental tool used by mathematicians and engineers, and it is central to so many aspects of our modern lives. So, knowing how to control and use a computer as a resource or partner in a problem-solving context makes sense. Also, I think learning some computer programming is a great way to develop computational thinking because it forces you to think through a problem in a very precise and clear way. I learned the fundamentals of computer programming many years ago and have recently been using a computer programming language called LiveCode for both work and play. In this video, I'm going to show the basics of how to do some programming in LiveCode. As I think you'll see, LiveCode is very approachable, at least when compared to many other programming or scripting languages. Okay, let's get started. Let me start by showing you some programming code from JavaScript. And I would challenge anyone to first try to figure out what exactly this code is doing. Now, if you know a little bit about JavaScript, maybe you're figuring it out, but I would say most people look at it and they just kind of scratch their heads. Maybe some of you are focusing on line 4, which has the word sort in it. And that is exactly what this code is doing. It's sorting a list of names or lines that might be in a particular web file. So yeah, looks kind of complicated, and it is. Let me show you the exact same code in LiveCode. Yeah, sort lines of var text, where var text is a variable. So as you can see, it's quite nice, quite easy to understand. Also notice too, if I go back to the JavaScript, you'll notice that there are all these semicolons that are there, and there's also just a lot more rigor in terms of making sure you have certain kinds of parameters that are listed. I think the semicolons are a really good idea or good example, because if you don't have the semicolons, you're going to have errors in your particular code. All right, so yeah, let's see how we might use this idea of sorting as I introduce you to LiveCode. Well, for example, here we have a list of names, and I would ask you, how would you organize this list? And maybe you know the context for each, maybe you don't. But again, I think the everyday person would understand very easily what to do. But we need to now be thinking in a computational way. So we have to think kind of like a computer. So we have to be very task-oriented and really analyze this task very, very clearly and precisely. So this is a good example where we might write some pseudocode. So I guess a good starting point would be I want to sort the list of names. But we've got to be a little more precise than that. How about in alphabetical order? So that's a lot more precise. It gives me some direction on how the name should be listed. But we need to go one step further, right? Because we have to be using the last name. And since we are going to be doing some programming, I think it is important that we add one more step to this, and that is after pressing the sort button, then we want to sort the list of names in alphabetical order using the last name. Now, when I go back to the list of names, you might notice that Captain Marvel Jr. is listed, and obviously you and I know that Jr. is not the last name. The last name is Marvel. So that adds some complexity, because we might say that the last word in each of these names would be the last name, but it certainly is not the case with Captain Marvel. Okay, let's go and see how we would do this in LiveCode. Okay, well, I've launched LiveCode and I have done nothing else. So I'm going to really start at the very beginning. And LiveCode uses a metaphor of a stack of cards. So what I'm going to do is go up to File and choose a new stack, and I can choose any kind of size I want, or I can just make my own, but I'm going to go ahead and choose one of these. I'll choose the iPad tablet landscape, and you can see the dimension is 1024 by 768. So we have now one card in the stack, and you can think in terms of a stack of cards. I could, if I wanted to, go up to under, let's see here, yeah, under Object and choose a new card, and that would add a card to the stack. I can also delete cards and do other kinds of things. So just be thinking of a stack of cards. And on the cards are going to be objects, and you can have all kinds of different objects on the screen. And in fact, over here in this little tools palette, we have some good examples of the kinds of objects we may use. But I think the most common would probably be buttons and fields. So let me go ahead and add some of each. We're going to have certainly a button that's going to sort a list of names, but we have to put the list of names in something, some container, and the container is called a field. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab, there's really several field types. As you can see, there's a label field, just a regular field. I always tend to start with a scrolling field because it has the most flexibility. And I'm going to bring it in, and it's just an object. I can put it anywhere I want. I can make it as big or small as I want. So I'm just going to put it right about there. Now, I'm going to name this field. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to double click on it, and that brings up what's called a property inspector. And so I'm going to call this field, give it a name, list 1. All right. So yeah, and I need to bring now in a button that's going to be sorting the names that I will put in here. So I'm going to go over here and get a button, bring it down here. And again, I can make the button a little bit bigger. And oh, you can see now that this property inspector has switched from the field to the button. So it is very context sensitive. If I click again on the field, it's subtle, but you can see it says field. If I click on the button, it now says button. So I'm going to give that button a name. I'm going to call it sort. All right, there we go. So now we have a nice field called list1 and a button called sort. Okay, so now I am going to bring those names into this field names list1. And there's a couple ways of bringing it in, but this is a good time to show that there are really two modes in LiveCode. There's the edit mode and there's the run mode. And when I switch back and forth, if I actually now click on the button, it will do whatever it's supposed to do. And of course, it doesn't do anything at this particular point. But this particular field allows me to put names in or text when I'm in run mode. So I went ahead and copied all of the names into my clipboard and have put them in there. And you can see they're kind of small. So I'm going to go into edit mode, click on the field and go over to the little A symbol. And I'm going to make the text bigger. Let me go ahead and make this a 24 point font. Now I could have gone in, by the way, to let's see, right there. I could have bring those names in as well into the contents, but it's just kind of an easier way to do it in LiveCode. All right, good. So now I have the names, and I want to now sort these names. So I need to give some instructions to the sort button, very much like that pseudocode that I had on the screen a little bit ago. So now what I need to do is click on the sort button, and I need to be able to open up some script, a script window. And I go up to Object, and I will see an opportunity to add some object scripts. I'll choose that, or Command D, by the way, is a shortcut. And here we have a nice script window. I got to start managing my windows now. And so I now need to know what to type in. So this is programming. You have to know the syntax for it. But like I say, LiveCode is much more forgiving. First of all, we need to put in that first bit of pseudocode was when the button sort is pressed. And so you can imagine that I have maybe a condition, like on the condition of the button mouse being pushed and then let go, I want this list to be sorted. And so that command is on mouse up. And you'll notice that it added the end mouse up. So we always have to have these bookends. So that might be a little bit not so intuitive, but That would be the syntax. So on some condition, and what is the condition? Well, there's all kinds of things dealing with the mouse, mouse down, mouse within, but when the mouse button is pressed, that's not the time I want any code to happen. I want it when the button is let go, which would be the mouse button jumps back up. All right, so what we're going to do is add some code. So like we had on the screen a moment ago, we're going to put in sort lines of, well, now we have a field called list1. And let's see if that works. So now I have to, notice a little yellow button. I have to apply the script. There we go. And if I type something incorrectly, like if I typed in sort with two T's instead of an R, you can see that the button stays red. There's a little X there. Down below, there's a little bit of, help of what happened. Character 4 is the big one, but obviously we know what it is. That should be an R. Hit apply. When the light is green, you know you have some clean code. All right, let's go over here and see if it works. So I need to go again into run mode. I'll click on that arrow and let's see what happens. Sort. Well, very good. It did sort, but it did sort by the first letter of the first word, C, all the way down to the W of Winnie the Pooh. And that's not what we want. But you get the idea. It worked. We just have to give it some other instructions. Now, notice too that it assumed that I wanted to do it alphabetically. So what I could do is type in some words, either ascending or descending, in order to tell it more precisely what I want. Now, it's kind of interesting, actually. Sort lines of field list one. I can actually be a little bit even more minimalist and just say sort field list one. And this time I'm going to put in the word descending after it. Let's see what that does. All right, I'm still in run mode. Sort. Yeah, this time it went from the W's down to the C's. Go back to here. If I type in ascending and spell it correctly and apply it, come back over here. I'm still in run mode. Hit the sort button. You can see that it goes into the alphabetical order. But we want it to be alphabetized by the last name. So a lot of programming languages, you'd have to figure out how to tell it what is the last name. But LiveCode is really good at list processing. And what we're doing here, sorting a list of names, is a good example of list processing. So let's go back to our script window. And what we can do is we do want to have it ascending, but we want to do it sort field list one ascending by last word of each. And by the way, too, I did not mention that I did put the name of the field list one in quotes. And that's important. That's a good example of the syntax of LiveCode. Not single quotes, double quotes. You have to have, and that's how it knows that that's going to be a name, not a command. All right, let's try this out. Let's go back to our program here. I'm still in run mode. Let me click sort. Very good. Except you can see that Captain Marvel Jr., it did actually interpret the junior as the last name. Now, and this would require a little bit more of a sophisticated script in order to get around that. I'd probably have to put in some kind of code to maybe look for the comma and then maybe ignore everything after the comma, something like that. But for the sake of argument and simplicity, I'm going to get rid of the junior part. And now if I sort, actually turned out that junior puts it in the very same place. Now, interestingly, you can do some other things too. Notice how Winnie the Pooh, of course, the last name is Pooh, so that comes after Pan. I could instead do it by ascending by word number 2 of each. Let's see what that does. All right, let's go back. I'm still in run mode. Sort. Yeah, now this time it is the of Kermit the Frog and Winnie the Pooh. Is that T that is being used here. And again, a lot of programming languages don't have the ability to know what is the last word of each. So it's, again, kind of interesting that I can do it by taking those kind of shortcuts. But so I could do word 1, word 2, I could do last word, I could do first word, and I think you get the idea. So ascending by last word of these, take out the 2. Let me apply that, and again, if I run it, there we go. And again, I'll just point out that if you want to make any changes to the object, you go into edit mode, and then you can move things around, you can resize them, whatever you need to do. So again, going back and forth between run mode and actually running the code, or going into edit mode and making some changes. Another interesting thing with LiveCode is you can add script or code to any object. I could be adding script to this field right now containing the names. So it's really interesting how you can add script in any particular place for any particular object. Okay, well, I hope that gives you a little sense of how LiveCode works. Now, if you'd like to try learning a little bit of LiveCode on your own, you can go to my workshop center for LiveCode on novaroad.com/livecode, and you'll see a bunch of sample projects and some tutorials for you to kind of get started. For example, I have a variety of good first projects here that you can build from scratch and really begin to get a sense of how programming works. One of my favorites is Follow the Bouncing Ball. And I always start off each one with a YouTube video that kind of shows what the project is all about, and then it shows step by step how to do it. Also, LiveCode used to have a free version called the Community Edition. The company itself has stopped supporting that, but the LiveCode community of users have actually archived the different community editions. So I will put a link to where you can get a free copy of LiveCode for either Macintosh or Windows, and you can start programming on your own. Okay, happy coding.